Hey guys, Tomo back again. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to MKBHD's Google Pixel 7a review. I personally have been using this phone for 17 days, but today I'm going to do something different. Just in general, I really enjoy Marquise's videos. He's pretty much one of the OG in the tech review world. But if you're like me, usually when I'm doing research on a phone, I like to watch many different perspectives, different videos, rather than just one person's review. So in his video, he covered a lot of the most important points on this phone, and I do agree with the majority of his assessments, but there are some minor things that he said that I don't quite necessarily agree with. Now let's jump right into it. He talks about how the Google Pixel 7 is similar to the 7a, which I do agree with. He does dive into the big difference between the price increases from the 6a to the 7a. That is an increase of $50.
Yes, the price did go up. The Pixel 6a was $449 at release. This is the 7a, so there should be a good reason to add $50 more. So let's just start with what's new, which is wireless charging and a new 90 Hz display.
Marquise talked about how the 90 Hz is dramatically smoother.
But you can go into the display settings and turn on smooth display. Suddenly it's 50% more frames and it's dramatically smoother.
And this is a guy that does this for a living, and he has an eye for these type of things. But I like to look at it from the lens of the average consumer. For me personally, when I've had this phone for the first week, I just had it by default. at 60 Hz refresh rate. And in the second week, I finally turned on 90 Hz refresh rate. To be honest, it does not change my life whatsoever. Maybe my battery life got worse since I turned on 90 Hz refresh rate. But just for reference, the iPhone 14 and the 14 Plus, they have 60 Hz refresh rate, yet people have been buying iPhones, the cheaper models, for many years, and those phones cost $800 and $900. So if you want a high refresh rate, typically you need to pay more for the Pro models in the iPhone series. With the Google Pixel 7a, you can argue that you do get the higher refresh rate at half the price. But my point is, I don't think it is a dramatic difference. I think if you hand your Google Pixel 7a to a random person, have it on 90 Hz refresh rate and 60 Hz refresh rate, have them compare. So unless you're holding two phones side by side, but it is not life-changing or dramatically different by any means. That's just my personal hot take.
Build quality wise, that is where you'll see, at least on paper, it does take the small step down from the Pixel 7. Plastic back, and the rails are still metal, which is nice, and it is also IP67 instead of IP68. But honestly, you'd be hard pressed to notice. Just like using this phone, holding it, there's no creaking, no bending, nothing screams low quality about this build at all. So I think that was well done.
In terms of build quality, I do agree with his assessment there. Overall, it feels pretty close and similar to Google Pixel 7a. The back is made of plastic compared to the glass back on the Google Pixel 7. It even has the metal rails, but overall, I do agree. It's a pretty good and well-built phone. It does not feel cheap by any means. There's no creaking or bending. Unlike Samsung with their A series, if you hold the Galaxy A54 and the Galaxy S23 next to each other, you can tell that the A54 is a much cheaper, lighter, less loved phone. Compared to the Google Pixel 7a, it basically feels almost identical to the 7, which is their more premium phone. So good job there, Google, with the design.
Have some serious color shifting and banding when you get off axis. But honestly, it's still bright. It still looks good enough for this price.
Then he talked about color shifting. I have no idea what he's talking about. My color looked just fine, and there's never a situation where I feel like I had to complain about the colors on my Google Pixel 7a.
And then there is a new set of colors. This little light blue is called Sea, as in ocean. It's the sea.
Funny enough, during the whole video, he was holding the C color, which is the lighter blue Google Pixel 7a. And while I was watching the video, I thought it looked white to me, so I couldn't even tell he was holding the blue phone. But that was initially the color that I would have preferred. But the big YouTubers, sometimes you get the phone to review in advance. Normal people like you and I had to go to the store and buy it. Sometimes you have to take what's available, otherwise you gotta wait longer. I chose to just grab this gray looking color on the spot, just so I can get my hands on it and test it right away.
Wireless charging is a nice one for convenience. I will say it's definitely not fast wireless charging. It's only 7.5 watts here. So I've noticed literally when I'm navigating and this is wireless charging in my car and it's got high brightness GPS stuff going, it just holds its charge. It doesn't lower or go up, it just stays the same.
Thought I wouldn't really mind it being slower at 7.5 watts, but I do agree, even when I'm driving around, if I have Bluetooth connected to my car, the brighter screen is on, GPS navigation, it either just holds its charge or sometimes it even loses battery while I'm charging. Wireless charging is nice compared to the 6A where I did not have anything at all, but it is the bare minimum for wireless charging.
And then do I really even need to get into the software? Because the story kind of writes itself. They do all the same software stuff in the A series phones as they do on the more premium Pixels, which I like. Not everybody does that. So all the same features, all the same stuff that I like about every other Pixel is also here. I've called the Pixel the smartest smartphone in the world because of how good Google Assistant is, how good the voice to text is with all the on-device transcription, the incredible voice recorder app, the Google Assistant stuff that screens calls and waits on hold for me, the now playing feature that hears songs in the background wherever you go and identifies them for you, the material you stuff throughout everything that identifies your wallpaper and matches your system colors to it.
And agree with all his takes just in terms of all the software features that the Pixel 7a does have to offer. It is basically one for one in terms of what you're going to get with the Pro Pixels. We are in agreement there.
4,385 milliamp hours. 18 watt charging, kind of slow, and 7.5 watt wireless charging, even slower. And then total battery life, I'm gonna say average at best. So it's a full day of use, but definitely nothing more, even at 90 hertz, which is fine. You know, it's mid-range, so I got quite a few days with the 3 to 4 hours of screen on time at 90 hertz with my typical usage, and I'd have like 10% left at the end of the day. So I'm not really worried about it dying before the end of the day, unless it's crazy heavy.
I do disagree with his take. He claims that you get a full day of battery life on the Google Pixel 7a, 3 to 4 hours of screen on time. Screen on time, I can see that based on his usage, and he still has 10% at the end of the day. And he also pointed out that it shouldn't die before the end of the day unless you have crazy heavy usage. If you guys watch any of my last 16 days videos, my phone always died before the end of the day. Even Google itself told me that phone is going to die before the end of the day. I wake up about 6 or 7 in the morning every day. I pull down the notification shades. It tells me it's only going to last until 3 or 4 or so. 9 to 10 hours of battery life is what you're going to get on Google Pixel 7a. For some reason, Marquise is claiming a full day of battery life, which I completely disagree with. But just keep in mind that he does talk about having 2 phones in most of his other videos. He's always carrying an iPhone with him, along with an Android phone. In this case, he's testing out the Google Pixel 7a. So just keep that in mind whenever he's talking about battery life and just his experiences with different phones. His usage is going to be different from most normal day people. Most normal day people don't carry around the latest iPhone 14 Pro in one hand and then another Android phone in the other hand. So naturally, just by having 2 phones in your pocket, you are going to be splitting your usage between 2 phones. So it's not going to be 100% accurate depictions of how he uses the phone. So that was something I do wanted to point out. You know, I am the biggest MKBHD's fan, but I do want to point out like some of the minor discrepancy in his reviews.
Yeah, Pixel photos look pretty good for a $500 phone. There are tons of dynamic range without being too HDR-y, and it actually kind of feels like they've evened it out a little bit, so it's a little less contrasty, but it still has that famous contrasty Pixel look. And then that f1.9 max aperture combined with the new sensor means you can take close-ups of things and have a really shallow depth of field, and you can take better low-light photos with faster shutter speeds at night with night sight. There is no macro mode, I noticed, but you can get pretty close up, probably, I'm gonna say like 5 inches away from the subject and still be fine, not too much fringing.
Then he talks about the camera, the processing, the new sensor. Google does a good job with that. And he talks about taking close-up photos will be fine. I also disagree there. When you're taking a picture, you're holding the phone too close to the subject. The camera itself will tell you to back up a little bit. He mentioned about 5 inches in the video will be fine. I disagree. I think if you're taking close-up photos of text or anything like that, it's going to look blurry. So I would recommend you back up at least a foot or more away from the subject and then just use the 2x camera to crop in, or else the text is going to be blurry, the depth of field is going to be off, and not everything is going to be in focus. In general, the Google Pixel 7a is a more than capable phone. You just gotta figure out how to maximize its full potential.
But for the price, I would actually rather go for the Pixel 7. It is 6 months older, yes, than this brand new A series phone, but it's going to have the same specs. It's the same tensor chip and same RAM and everything, but it will have more capable cameras on the back and the front, faster 20-watt wireless charging, and then a bunch of the smaller little things, better haptics, better speakers in the cheaper phone. It's actually glass on the back. Like, there's just a bunch of little things that add up to a better experience overall. It's thinner bezels, better accessories because it's 6 months old already. It's also IP68 instead of IP67. And this phone is like $599 standard, and it was when it came out, but it's regularly on sale for much less than that. If you can get this phone, Pixel 7, for in the $500 to $550 range, I would take this over the 7A.
And at the end of the video, he would recommend that the Pixel 7 is a better value between $500 and $550. It does go on sale pretty often. But at the same time, I can argue with the Google Pixel 7a, you can get on sale for $400 to $450. So that is still a $100 difference. And for the $100 difference, it may be a big deal for some people. So in general, I think there is a small market for the 7a for people who don't need the fast wireless charging. You don't need the glass back. You don't mind the thicker bezels. You get IP67 instead of IP68 water resistant. You get a slightly better camera with the Google Pixel 7. But you know, it's not really that much of a difference. But if all those minor things are worth $100 to you, then get the Google Pixel 7. But I think the 7a makes the right sacrifices to save that extra $100. Overall, I think the Google Pixel 7a is a great phone. It is not the most exciting phone in the market, but it does everything really well. It is reliable and affordable, and that is perfect for most people who want a great camera at an affordable price. Because if you get the Samsung A54 at a similar price range, the performance on that phone, it is noticeably slower. So I would recommend the Pixel 7a over the A54 any day. But I think for most average people, you're looking for a new phone, I would recommend checking out the Google Pixel 7a. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoy this take. Me personally, I always like to watch a whole bunch of videos from many different people before coming to a conclusion which phone is the best for me. These are some of the things that was going through my mind when I was watching Marquise's video, and I hope you guys find it to be helpful. Please continue to check out my daily vlogs if you haven't already. On day 16, I just walk you through another regular day in the life of a small YouTuber like myself, so you can see how I use my phone and how it impacts my battery life.